Welcome to Civitas LA, where we feature diverse and emerging leaders who make up this dynamic region and are creating community every day and building a better tomorrow. In these bi-weekly conversations, we get to hear from, learn from, and be inspired by a new generation of civic entrepreneurs who are forging a path forward in making the greater Los Angeles region a stronger, more resilient, and connected group of citizens. Now, more than ever, we aim to elevate civic discourse, foster community connections, and promote civic knowledge and engagement across our region while elevating diverse and emerging voices in this conversation. As we recently marked Earth Day 2021 and highlighted the work of the Los Angeles Clean Tech Incubator, LACI, which nurtures the next generation of innovators who are commercializing clean technologies for a more sustainable future, we also just kicked off on Thursday, May 6th, World Trade Week, celebrating the importance of global trade to our region and how global trade represents the road to economic recovery. But central to this conversation is really the role of our ports. And for our region, the greater Los Angeles region, the San Pedro Bay ports, which includes Long Beach and Los Angeles, these two great ports represent unprecedented economic impact and opportunity. However, as we also know, ports and port operations can lead to negative environmental impacts on air, water, and land, and also cause disparities in health and wellness, especially those living in close proximity to such operations. And these residents tend to be primarily low-income and or working-class communities of color. So how are our ports navigating the complex issues of environmental justice, maintaining economic competitiveness, and working with their community partners to mitigate these community impacts and position the ports for the future? So this is a lot to unpack. So with us today, calling in, we are absolutely delighted to have with us Dr. Noel Hacegaba, Deputy Executive Director and Chief Operating Officer of the Port of Long Beach, the second busiest port in the country, here to discuss how they're navigating these complex issues and opportunities. Noel, welcome to Civitas LA.
Thanks, Dwayne. A pleasure to be here and a pleasure to reconnect with you.
Excellent. We're so glad that you are here and glad to celebrate the 95th World Trade Week. Noel, we always like to start with a simple self-introduction. Give us a sense of your journey to your current role with the Port of Long Beach.
Happy to do so, Dwayne. I've been with the Port of Long Beach now for about 12 years, and in that stint, I've had the opportunity to serve in different roles. Currently, I am responsible for the day-to-day operations and administration of the nation's second largest seaport, which includes everything from commercial operations to security, real estate, human resources, and all the day-to-day operating functions. And before that, I had different roles where I supported our Board of Harbor Commissioners in their policymaking duties, as well as promoting our port and our port's value proposition around the globe. And before that, I had different management level opportunities in both the public and private sectors, which prepared me very well for my current post here at the Port of Long Beach.
No, excellent. So, Noel, before we get into the heart of the conversation, we always like to get a sense of your LA, or in this case, could be your Long Beach. So with a few lightning round questions to give us a sense of what does Dr. Noel Hacegaba do when he's not leading the second largest port in the country. So are you ready?
I'm ready, Dwayne.
Okay. So I know you're down in Long Beach, so give us a favorite restaurant or two.
That's going to be the hardest question of the day, my friend, but I would say Open Sesame and Pan Vimard.
Okay.
Are two of my favorites.
Okay. Both in Long Beach.
Both in Long Beach.
Okay.
Yes.
We'll have to come down and visit that. Favorite watering hole.
Anyone who knows Long Beach will think of Joe Jost's, certainly a Long Beach staple. But I would also include some of the new places along Steelcraft, for example, in Bixby Knolls.
Okay. Favorite place to take a visitor to Long Beach.
Of course, besides the Port of Long Beach, I would say the Queen Mary or possibly the Aquarium of the Pacific, both fabulous places.
Okay, we love that. Give us a hidden gem.
I have a couple. The Museum of Latin American Art, or MOLA.
Okay.
And I would also include Rancho Los Alamitos, which is a beautiful site that depicts the evolution of our great city from its beginnings as a rancho to what it is today.
Outstanding. We always love this question because, our region is so blessed with open space. So give us your favorite hike or favorite park.
In Long Beach, I'd have to say the Nature Center. The Nature Center was recently revitalized. It's a wonderful place to take a walk, observe nature in its natural environment, and my family and I enjoy it very much.
Okay. Favorite street food?
Of course, when you talk about street food, you can't go without tacos, right?
Right.
So one of my favorite hole in the walls is a place called Cinco de Mayo, right in downtown.
Love it. Favorite neighborhood?
I would have to say the downtown area because it has gone through a tremendous revitalization just in the last decade. And it's a great place to walk, visit, eat, drink. So I would say the downtown area.
Okay. Excellent. Well, Noah, that was great. We love it. And when we can all get out and about again, we look forward to seeing you on location in Long Beach. Noel, so the Port of Long Beach is soon, I think this summer, going to hit its 110th year mark. What an amazing accomplishment. Give our audience an introduction to this complex, this Port of Long Beach.
It really is a gateway to America's economy. When you consider what we do on a day-to-day basis in support of global trade, the number of containers carrying, roughly $200 billion worth of goods, Dwayne, it gives you a sense of what a massive economic engine we are, not just for the local and regional economies, but for the national economies.
Sure.
In fact, we estimate that each year, approximately 40% of America's waterborne imports crosses our docks. And the containers that enter our gateway touch every single one of the 435 congressional districts. So it really is an asset of national significance.
Well, I know the Port of Long Beach is part of what we call here in the region the San Pedro Bay Port Complex. So this includes you and your neighbors adjacent to you, the Port of Los Angeles. What are some of the distinguishing features between the Port of Long Beach and your next door neighbors at the Port of LA?
We're very, very similar. If you were to look at the complex that encompasses both ports from an aerial viewpoint, it would be hard to find the dividing line. It really is a political boundary, municipal jurisdictions that divide us. But when it comes to the day-to-day operations, we're nearly identical. Our footprint is about the same size. The diversity in lines of business and cargo types that we handle, our cargo profile, are very, very similar. So I would say that as a complex, we complement each other very well. The same shipping lines that come to Port of Long Beach terminals visit Los Angeles terminals. And while it is true that, on a day-to-day basis, we compete for cargo, I can tell you, Dwayne, that we have an extremely collaborative relationship with the Port of Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. And it's something that has been a hallmark of our complex, something that has strengthened our complex. And again, when you consider the positive economic impact of this complex to the national economy, that collaboration goes a long way.
Well, I know, as we said in the introduction, we just kicked off the 95th Annual World Trade Week, which is an event that's put on by the Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce, which really celebrates the importance of global trade to our region collectively in terms of jobs and opportunity, et cetera. And I know the Port of Long Beach is a major sponsor of this event. So, what does, share with us why you feel this annual event is so important for our region, and how do we continue to share the importance of global trade to, residents throughout the region?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Dwayne, because it really hits at the core of what we're trying to do. Promoting global trade is essentially promoting the national economy. A lot of people, when they go to stores and they buy a product off the store shelf, for example, rarely do they look at where it was made and think about how it was brought here to that store shelf. But when you consider the magnitude of global trade and the positive economic impact it has on our economies, on our local communities, everything from jobs that are created, whole industries that are stimulated, it's critically important to our economy, especially now in the post-pandemic economic recovery. Mm-hmm. Global trade is going to be a massive stimulator of getting jobs back on track, getting the economy back on track. And that's the reason why we promote events like the World Trade Week, to bring attention mm-hmm. to the importance of global trade. But beyond that, global trade really brings countries together. It brings people of different cultures who speak different languages together. When we go overseas on trade missions, for example, Dwayne, yeah, we talk about the business, we talk about how we can strengthen trade, but the exchange of culture, the exchange of knowledge is so critical and so beneficial for us, as I'm sure it is for the countries that we visit.
Sure. And I think, we hit on some of that last year when we had Stephen Chung from the World Trade Center Los Angeles with us, and we had Janet Elliott from the International Visitors Council of Los Angeles in terms of promoting citizen diplomacy. So it all, folds in together in terms of building global community and global connectivity. So thank you for that. So let's talk some raw numbers. You talked about, as the second busiest port in the U.S. So, what does that mean for for the average person? Like, what's flowing through the Port of Long Beach? Share some interesting factoids for us.
Sure. So 2020, it's probably a good starting point, was a breakout year for us.
Really?
What began as a doom and gloom scenario because of COVID quickly transitioned into fast and furious. In fact, when you look at our monthly cargo volumes, Dwayne, what you'll see is a pattern. First quarter, we sustained steep declines as the pandemic paralyzed manufacturing overseas, and we saw a steep decline in containers arriving into our port in the first quarter of 2020. But once China and their manufacturing operation got up and running again, and demand here in the United States for goods began to grow as we were confined to our homes, and online shopping and e-commerce grew at astronomical levels, that spurred a cargo surge that ended up being a record cargo surge. So in July of last year, for example, we started seeing literally a tsunami of containers arriving to our port. We ended 2020 with our best cargo count on record, wow. 8.1 million container units.
Holy heck.
And when you consider what that means, those 8.1 million container units carried approximately $200 billion worth of goods.
And what are some of the principal countries of origin? I'm wondering, is this all China?
Well, we operate in what is called the Trans-Pacific Trade Lane, and our close proximity to Asia puts us in a prime position to take advantage of that. Asia obviously is our largest trade partner as a region, but China, far and away, Dwayne, accounts for 70%, that's 70, wow, of our business when you consider imports and exports. And that's followed by countries like South Korea and Japan. And then you have some countries in Southeast Asia that are sprinkled in there as manufacturing continues to grow in that region. But yeah, China, far and away, our largest trade partner.
And I'm wondering, what's been the Amazon effect this past year? Of course, everyone has now gone onto Amazon to buy everything essentially. What's been the effect of Amazon on your business?
It's massive. Before the pandemic, the projections that I saw was that e-commerce was going to double within 5 years. The pandemic had the effect of accelerating that trend. In fact, a major factor in the cargo surge that we experienced in the middle of last year that's continued through to date, Dwayne, is e-commerce. And I think a lot of people got more comfortable with shopping online, ordering their products online, ordering products from the comfort of their homes, and then picking them up via curbside pickup. So massive impact. Amazon, as a company, obviously is considered a disruptor, and one of the effects of that disruption, if you will, in the supply chain, is that more and more entities are following their model of 24/7 operations. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we've observed as we have managed this cargo surge that was induced by the pandemic is it's just a matter of time before the supply chain here in the U.S. Has to transition to a 24/7 model just to be able to handle the volumes of containers that we forecast in the years ahead.
Well, I know, in recent years, Noel, there's been a lot of conversation around the overall cost of doing business here in California, but also the cost of doing business at our region's ports. And with the, Panama Canal being deepened, other ports becoming more competitive, there was a lot of concern about the future of our port complex here. So, where are we now in this conversation, and what do you think the outlook is for our port complex here in Long Beach and Los Angeles?
If you were to ask me what's the one word that captures what keeps us up at night, what we're thinking about, and how we're approaching the future, I would say that word, Dwayne, is competitiveness. Competitiveness. Historically, our port has taken advantage of our close proximity to Asia, the fact that we've been a major gateway for global trade. But just in the last couple of decades, we've seen other gateways across the U.S. also invest in their ports and their port systems. And so there's more competition. What you mentioned, the Panama Canal Authority and the recent expansion project, that's paved the way, for example, for ships and the containers they carry to bypass the West Coast, make their way to ports like New York, New Jersey, ports in the Gulf Coast. So competition has intensified. And it's something that we have been really beating the drum on, is if we want to maintain our position in the marketplace as a port authority, we have to become more competitive. And we're approaching that in two ways, Dwayne. First is we are investing aggressively in our capital infrastructure. We have the largest CapEx program of any port in North America. Just in the last 10 years, we invested $4 billion in upgrading our facilities, modernizing our terminals, expanding our rail capacity. And over the next 10 years, we're going to invest another $1.7 billion. So that's a massive capital improvement program that, by the way, also generates jobs and supports our building and trades groups and supports that industry. But the second way we're approaching competitiveness and how we maintain our position in the marketplace is by focusing on operational excellence,
sure,
delivering world-class service, ensuring that our customers receive the reliability, the velocity, and dependability that they need and move their containers through our port. And that's where 24/7 comes in again. I think it's just a matter of time before the entire supply chain transitions to a 24/7 model. It's going to be necessary for us to be able to handle growth, and growth is the key to our competitiveness in the years ahead.
Sure. And I know some of that capital investment is, focuses on your environmental leadership. And I know the port prides itself on its being an international leader in environmental stewardship. So let's talk about, the role of goods movement in our economy, which is so important to our regional economy, but also its contribution to environmental impacts and some of the negative impacts on communities adjacent to these facilities, particularly in Long Beach and along the 710 corridor. So how is the Port of Long Beach managing these complex environmental issues?
We're proud, Dwayne, of having been the first green port. Our groundbreaking green port policy that dates back to 2004, 2005 really reshaped our approach to growth, our approach to business. And I have to say that at that point in time, there were a lot of skeptics. There were a lot of doubters, folks who weren't sure if we were going to be able to raise the bar on sustainability and environmental stewardship and continue to grow the business. But the numbers speak for themselves. As of our latest air emissions inventory, and this is just the Port of Long Beach, when you compare where we are today versus 2005 as a baseline, virtually every category of emissions is down. Diesel particulate matter is down 88%, NOx down 58%, SOx down 97%, greenhouse gases down nearly 20%. And during that time period, Dwayne, our business grew 14%. So we've demonstrated that you can grow your business while greening your operations. And in fact, just in the last couple of years, we've raised the bar yet again. The latest iteration of the Clean Air Action Plan set very aggressive goals. By 2030, we envision zero emissions cargo handling equipment within our terminal operations. And by 2035, we have a goal of zero emissions trucks. So this is something that's part of our DNA. This is something that we're very proud of. And the greatest thing about this whole thing, Dwayne, is other ports around the world see our story and they're following our lead. And today you have dozens of green ports around the globe because they've seen our story. They know you can grow your business while growing green.
What were some of the circumstances leading to the adoption of that green port policy back in 2005? What was it? Community concerns? Was it something that was discussed by the board? What was the circumstances around that? I'm curious to know.
Yeah, there was a terminal development project that was being contemplated, and at that point in time, the port's involvement in mitigating impacts to the community were not as aggressive as they are today. And so at the time, the city council took the position that if the port wanted to continue to grow and expand its operations and its footprint in the community, that we would have to step up our game in mitigating some of those impacts and looking for ways to support the local community. Mm-hmm. And in fact, that became that was a turning point for the port, because it was at that point that the port took this issue of environmental stewardship and sustainability very seriously, and we adopted the Green Port Policy, which eventually turned into the Cleaner Action Plan that we collaborated with the Port of Los Angeles on, and that set in motion, Dwayne, a lot of these policies that at the time were pioneering, were breakthroughs that had never been done before. And today you see ports in Europe and Asia, Latin America, mimicking what we've been able to achieve. But it was really that. It was our desire to grow, and it was our city's desire to see us grow green that triggered the Green Port Policy.
And what are some of the key elements of that policy?
At that time, it was about looking for ways to reduce emissions.
Okay.
For example, every category from the ships that call our terminals, slow steaming, having them slow down as they make their way to the terminals at berth, okay, to trucks, the Clean Truck Program, for example, that set in motion a process to replace aging trucks that were more polluting with newer engines that were cleaner. It also delved into water quality in addition to air quality. Mm-hmm. So it was really a comprehensive approach to looking at every part of port operations and looking for ways to mitigate pollution so that those in our surrounding community would not be as impacted.
And how does the Clean Air Action Plan fit into that?
The Clean Air Action Plan is a framework that takes the original Green Port Policy and expands on that.
Okay.
The Clean Air Action Plan basically encompasses all port operations, and obviously it includes our partners, our industry partners. And I have to say, Dwayne, as much as we like to take credit as ports for the achievements in pollution reduction, advances in water quality, air quality, I have to, hats off to our industry partners. They're the ones who made the investments. The trucking companies, the independent drivers, our marine terminal operators, everyone across the supply chain stepped up. They did their part. And that's the reason why we have cleaner air, we have cleaner water. Sea animals are back. You can see dolphins. Wow. In the port complex. I mean, it really is a day and night comparison from where we were just a few years ago. The difference is stark.
And how is success measured, and how often are these measurements taken?
So once a year, we conduct what we call an air emissions inventory, where we monitor the progress on different categories of pollutants. The four key categories are diesel particulate matter, or DPMs, nitrogen oxides, or NOx, sulfur oxides, or SOx, and greenhouse gases. And when you look at these four categories, Dwayne, and you compare where we are today versus our 2005 levels, we're down in every single category, in some cases as high as 97%. And during that same time period, by the way, our volumes have grown 14%. So again, just a tremendous story of what you can achieve when you collaborate with your industry partners and set your heart and your mind to mitigating some of these impacts.
Sure. And so this is great work being undertaken by the Port of Long Beach, but concurrently, are they being undertaken by your neighbors next door, the Port of Los Angeles? Is it a complex-wide initiative?
Absolutely. So, the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach historically have collaborated on a number of different issues, and the environment is certainly one. That's probably the strongest example of how the two ports have come together. The Clean Air Action Plan, in fact, was adopted by both ports,
Gotcha.
and it's being implemented by both ports.
Well, I know. Let's talk about the community impacts. I know and community mitigation, because I know the Port of Long Beach launched their own community mitigation grants program. Tell us about that program and how has it been received by community partners?
The community grants program is an unprecedented effort to lessen the Port of Long Beach's impact on our surrounding community. In fact, just a few years ago, we committed to invest another $46 million over the next 12 years toward community-based projects that reduce our impacts on air quality, traffic, noise, and water quality.
Mm-hmm.
No other U.S. seaport that we're aware of, or for that matter, the world, has voluntarily committed as much funding for community-based environmental mitigation.
And I'm curious, what are some of the projects can you share at the grassroots level that are being undertaken?
Sure. Most of these projects are in partnership with community-based organizations, schools, medical facilities,
Mm-hmm.
Senior residences. And the whole idea is to equip these entities with the technology and the equipment to mitigate some of the impacts of port operations. And again, that includes everything from air quality to water quality, traffic, noise, virtually every possible impact of port operations.
And how is it overall? How is it received by community? How would you grade your relationship with your community in Long Beach?
Based on the community surveys that we do from time to time, the feedback that we receive from the community groups, as well as those at every level of government, Dwayne, I can tell you that it's been extremely well received.
Okay.
The Port of Long Beach has been awarded so many different times for the work and the initiative we took in this effort.
Well, I heard one fact from someone saying that all the commissioners on the Port of Long Beach Commission live in Long Beach. So I assume that has a positive effect, because I can stalk my commissioners at the Safeway if I have an issue.
No, that's absolutely correct. One of the requirements to serve on the Harbor Commission is you have to be a resident of the city of Long Beach. So
Okay.
I absolutely agree with you. I mean, that makes a difference when it comes to policy making.
Noel, earlier you talked about the capital expenditure program at the Port of Long Beach, and one of the conversations we recently had with Taj Ahmad Eldridge from the LA Clean Tech Incubator and the work that they're doing to nurture the next generation of clean tech companies. I'm wondering, how is the Port of Long Beach, leveraging its resources to support innovative technologies that can reduce environmental damage here?
Great question, and very timely, Dwayne, because our latest version of the Clean Air Action Plan sets some pretty aggressive goals. Zero emissions cargo handling equipment by 2030, zero emissions trucks by 2035. These are pieces of equipment that do not exist today. And so that goal by itself spurs development of these technologies that over time will become widespread, right? And
Mm-hmm.
if you consider what our governor announced just last year in terms of zero emissions vehicles for commuters, it aligns with that vision as well. And so what we've done over the years to try to help support and spur some of these investments and R&D, if you will, is we developed a TAP program. We call it the TAP program, which stands for Technology Advancement Program.
Mm-hmm.
And what we do is we invest in companies and different technologies in support of some of these goals. And the idea is that if we can provide some seed money and help them through the demonstration process prior to getting approval by the regulatory agencies, it will help spur an industry that we desperately need in order to meet our ambitious goals. So right now, for example, a lot of our demonstration projects are in the area of zero emissions and how we can get there, both on the trucking side as well as the cargo handling equipment side.
So, Noel, I know that the port plays such an important role in employment in Long Beach, and I believe accounting for something like 20% of all jobs in the city. So as technology and innovation advances, I know there's fear in some quarters, particularly around, heavy equipment roles. How is the port using its position to continue to position the port as a career opportunity, and how are, jobs evolving and changing at the port?
We recognize and we take very seriously our role as a economic engine, and that includes job creation. When you consider how many jobs we generate on an annual basis, it's 1 out of 5 in Long Beach, over 500,000 across Southern California, and upwards of 2 million jobs across the country. Mm-hmm. In fact, Dwayne, in the CapEx program over the past 10 years, all of those infrastructure projects generated 50,000 jobs. Yeah. We're also working with the American Association of Port Authorities. I had the pleasure of chairing the Professional Development Board, and we're having that conversation across the nation. Mm-hmm. So it's a very timely topic. Again, we support all of our partners, certainly our dock workers who masked mm-hmm. up and showed up to work every single day, even during the pandemic. So we're going to do everything that we can to continue supporting jobs.
Well, I was curious about that, Noel, because, as we think about, post-pandemic and recovery and the need for jobs in our region, particularly amongst, those who were most heavily impacted by COVID, those with, bachelor's degrees were simply not as impacted with those without bachelor degrees. But I know the Center for Competitive Workforce, which is housed over at the LA County Economic Development Corporation, just released a report, actually, I want to say February of this year, discussing middle skill job opportunities at our ports specifically. And they said, quote, right now and into the future, there's a shortage of workers for ports related jobs. So I'm curious about that. How is the Port of Long Beach addressing this issue? And, how do we get, young people aware, engaged, properly educated, and positioned for those jobs?
We're tackling this issue on multiple fronts. Our partnership with academic institutions, for example, Dwayne, certainly includes colleges, universities, but we're also working with the school district at the middle school and high school level. And what we're trying to do is expose youth to career opportunities at the port at a young age. In fact, we partnered with the Long Beach Unified School District in the last 5 years, and we instituted the Cabrillo Academy of Global Logistics. This is a curriculum that is specific to port operations and careers in the port arena. And we're exposing our high school students to some of these careers. Mm-hmm. So this is something we're doing. We're going to continue to pursue aggressively. We're also partnering with Long Beach City College and their Maritime Center of Excellence in order to define what those skills are, what those middle skills are going to be in demand for in the near future. Mm-hmm. But as you pointed out, we're already seeing shortages, and as volumes continue to grow over time, we're going to need even more folks in the workforce to be able to move those containers.
Well, Noel, this has been a great conversation. We're really excited to have you with us today, and we're really excited to learn more about the work at the Port of Long Beach. We look forward to following the successes of the many men and women who are bringing about environmental innovation and leadership at the port. But as we say in Civitas LA, the guest gets the final word. So what are your final thoughts you want to share with our audience today?
Our tagline is the port of choice, Dwayne, and that's our vision. And everything we're doing, from our capital investment programs to our sustainability initiatives to our quest for operational excellence, is all about being that port of choice, including for our surrounding communities. So I want to thank you very much for the opportunity to talk about this with you. Appreciate what you're doing to educate our community as well.
Well, Noel, we appreciate you and appreciate the Port of Long Beach. This has been a great dialogue, and I appreciate your time today, and we appreciate your service to community. So thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure.
And to our audience, thank you as always for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this program, and we hope you join us in 2 weeks for another great civic conversation. As we say on Civitas LA, until we meet again, stay strong and get involved. To learn more about Civitas LA and share feedback on this program, or if you have a recommendation about future programs, please visit our website at www.civitasla.com. And if you're on our site, we invite you to take our listener survey and offer your suggestions. We also invite you to visit our support page and consider ways that you might support this work, including through the purchase of some great new merchandise that we have, including a great Civitas LA tote bag and an outstanding Civitas LA face mask, which everyone is wearing right now. And finally, as we grow our Civitas LA family, we invite you to connect with us on Facebook at Civitas LA, Instagram at Civitas_LA, and on Twitter at Civitas_LA.